Jealous people do not like the level of privacy and the level of protection you now put around your life. Jealous people absolutely hate boundaries. And when you put boundaries in place that put them on the outside, they just do not like it. They look at you as if you have done something wrong to them because you no longer allow them into spaces where they do not belong. When you put boundaries in place with people who used to treat you badly, speak to you disrespectfully, and treat you like you're an afterthought, when you suddenly put a guard of protection and peace around your life, when you begin to think more clearly and understand that those people cannot be within your close circle, when you begin to withhold information from them, and I'm going to stay on that, the withholding information part from them. Jealous, envious people, sometimes they go under the radar for a little bit. They can be very secretive. They can come off as very nice in the beginning. Their jealousy and their envy can be hidden for a little while. They might be, nice to you. They may offer help to you. They might always be there. And more times than not, they're always there to listen. If you need to talk to anybody, you need encouragement, come to me. They are those kind of people a lot of times. And what you find with those kind of people when they're jealous and envious and they have a toxic, miserable spirit, the more you talk to them, the more your name is heard out in the streets. The more your name and your situation is critiqued by people you don't even know. People who are envious and jealous and miserable in general, they are always looking for the opportunity to spread your personal information around. And when you no longer allow them to do that and you begin to value your privacy and value your well-being and value your time, you put a hedge around yourself, and to keep them out, they don't like that. Suddenly, when you become a more private person, and I have spoken about being more private, and I'm going to hit the link to that video in the description of this video. Being more private protects you from the venom of jealous, toxic people. But when toxic people realize that they're now on the outside and not on the inside, they're going to begin to treat you funny. And you have to get used to that. When suddenly they're in your presence and you're not spilling all of your business, you don't have diarrhea of the mouth where you're just giving them all of the tea about your business or somebody else's business. When suddenly now you're just talking about the weather, like, so, hey, yeah, it's nice out there. They say it's going to be 80 degrees today. Very nice weather. I might go to the pumpkin patch, I might, take the kids to the park, You're just talking about general things. No more giving them your information. With people who are jealous and envious, and I need you to understand this, do not give them your personal information. If you're going through something, in your relationship, if you're going through something on your job, if you're dealing with some kind of struggle, if that person has a tendency to suddenly allow other people to know what you're going through, and you'll know that from the fact that you tell them, and now you're hearing it all over from different people, that is not a person you should be confiding in. Yes, gossip is of the devil. Gossip is not God, okay? And for people to tell you things like, you can count on me, you can rely on me, I'm here for you. If you need to talk, come to me. And then suddenly when you talk to them, those same things you talked about are now spread within the community. That is a person that you need to avoid. And it's not to say that that person is jealous. Some people are just miserable and toxic, and they're miserable in their own life, and they have to be busybodies in everybody else's life. Those kind of people, especially when you're trying to do better in life, when you're leveling up in some way, when you're building a business, when you're really establishing yourself as a woman, you don't have time to be around people who are constantly going to subject you to the critique and ridicule of other people. You don't need that behavior in your life. So having a more private life, jealous people will not like, because now you don't give them anything to talk about. They have to find something or someone else to talk about. For years, you might have been the topic of their conversation. They might have depended on you to do something messy, to be in something messy, to say something messy, so that they can have something to talk about at family functions, at the park, during reunions. You were a topic of their discussion. But when you quiet, and I think many of us can, practice this more often. Learn how to be quiet. Learn how to talk about, things that are happening in the community, things that are happening in the world. There are a lot of things to talk about right now with it being an election year. Talk about those things. Leave your name out of your own mouth, okay? And this is something I had to learn myself, because for me, I used to be the kind of person that somebody would say, "How are you doing?" I couldn't say I'm doing well. I couldn't just say I'm doing well and leave it at that. I would have to say I'm doing well by the grace of God, but this is happening, and then on the job this happened, and I was trying to do this, and I got a letter in the mail and they said, I was that kind of person where it's like within the course of 5-minute interaction, I've given this person my entire life's history. And this is not just a person who might have been jealous. Sometimes people just don't need to know all of that. If you don't know them that well, you don't need to divulge all that information. And I had to learn this over time. But it becomes more dangerous when you divulge all this information to somebody who is a jealous, envious, miserable spirit, and they're always looking for some way, somehow to tarnish you in the eyes of other people. And you can tell this by the fact that when you say things, all of a sudden other people know. But sometimes in our naivety as women, and sometimes in our overly unbotheredness, we just let things go and we don't look at the red flags and the warning signs that people give us that they're a snake. And we're trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes I've heard people say, well, that's just how they are. That's just him. That's just her. Well, you know what? They can be that way, but be that way to themselves. Like, don't make you a subject or a topic for them to have to spew out their negativity. Let somebody else be their coffee table talk. You know what I mean? Like, stop telling people who are negative so much stuff about yourself. And when somebody is jealous, you can tell it, because when you tell them things about you, they're not trying to help you find a solution. They just dig deeper into the things that are already hard for you. See, people who are jealous and envious and miserable, they don't look for solutions. They like to escalate problems. They like to get you thinking more deeply into the reason why things happen and not ever offer you a solution as into how you can make things better. That's one sign, one major red flag that you can tell you're dealing with a negative, wicked spirit. And if they're not jealous, if anything, they're absolutely miserable, because they're not solution-based thinkers. And I can't stand people who are not solution-based thinkers. And I'm not saying can't stand as in I know everybody thinks differently, but I'm talking about the miserable people, the jealous, toxic people, the ones who mean you no good. They're often never solution-based. They will sit there and listen to you wallow and whine and vent and be miserable, and they will never offer you words of encouragement. And you know why? It's because they find your misery entertaining. They find your lack of discipline and your lack of self-control and your inability to keep things private. They find that entertaining. And when you wake up to that sad reality as a woman, you will realize, oh no, I'm not for anybody's entertainment. I'm not for anybody's enjoyment other than my husband, okay? I'm not going to put myself out there like that and cause people to make me a subject of their conversation in a negative way. Absolutely not. Start keeping your life a little bit more private, especially when you're dealing with miserable, jealous people. Don't give them ammunition to use against you. And don't be so desperate and hard up for friendships and relationships that you confide in snakes. Pray about it. Look, I know that's like the most clichéest thing that somebody can say, but it's true. Pray that God will send you somebody that you can confide in. People that'll be in your circle that you can really talk to and vent to. I had to do that, and God did it. Because the people that I found myself turning to the most, it's not that they were jealous or anything like that. It's just sometimes there were some things that I saw that just were not right. And I'm like, I don't want to be a victim. So I'm going to scale back a little bit, keep things to myself, keep it between me and God. I know as feminine women, we are more emotional. We like to, we tell people how we feel and all of that. But even in that, you have to use wisdom and just know who and what you're dealing with. You know, you don't want to set yourself up to be in a worse off situation than what you're already in. Okay, so don't be so, emotional to where now you're confiding in people or confiding in people that are now going to have you looking a certain way, because I know, and all these thoughts are coming to me. I used to be so overly emotional and over, speaking about my life that I made things seem worse than what they were. Sometimes as women, we could speak about things in a way where it's like, something silly. I'll say, I ran out of coffee and I never have any coffee. And this happens and that happens. And next thing you know, you got people walking away thinking that you can't afford to buy coffee. You don't have no cup and you don't have a pot. You give that impression by how you speak sometimes. So we have to really be mindful of how we're presenting ourselves in the public eye in our heightened state of emotion, because people who are jealous and miserable and toxic, they're already looking for something to make you kind of look bad in the eyes of others. They like your misery in a way. It's entertaining, and we just can't give them that ammunition. Okay, so be mindful that you keep a hedge of protection, privacy around your life, and stop telling jealous, envious people all of your information. And if the person is miserable and a gossip, definitely stop giving them all of your information. And if you want to do a little test to see if they're a gossip, tell them something that you don't mind getting out and see how many people find out about it. All right? A lot of people are liked because of their ability to let people treat them however they want to treat them. But the women who are disliked the most are often the women who refuse to let people take advantage of them. The women who have boundaries and standards for their lives are typically the women who are not everyone's cup of tea. They're not everyone's cup of Jill, if you know what I mean. I never thought I would see the day where being a woman who simply minds her business, takes care of her life, and does the best she can as a woman is somehow considered a threat and somehow makes her intimidating in the eyes of other people. But the more I think about it, this is the major reason, in my opinion, of why this is. When a woman doesn't need a lot of outside validation, that makes her unlikable to insecure and jealous people. You see, when people are insecure, they're constantly doing things to try to get the attention of other people. Whereas a woman who is confident and self-assured, she doesn't need to do all of that. People are drawn to her because it's her. And I know how that sounds, but think about it. If you're a woman that's simply living her life, you feel good about yourself for the most part, you feel good about the way your life is going, or you're working towards your goals, you're just doing the positive things that you know to do in your life. You're trying to look good while doing it. You're trying to just take care of your health and just be the best that you can be as a woman. And you're not so focused on what other people are doing. And you don't need somebody constantly in your face to prop you up to make you feel good about yourself. When people see you operating that way, they will look at you like there's something wrong with you, especially if you're in environments where people are giving praise constantly. Let's say like a workplace, because this seems to be standard in the workplace, where you have like that quiet coworker that just comes there. They look good, they smell good, they doing their job to the best of their ability. They don't really talk too much. They just say what's necessary. But because of that, that one person is a threat in the office, all because they come to work looking nice, they're quiet, minding their business and doing their job. They don't feel like they need to get too close to anybody because they don't need all of that. They're there to make their money and go home. But for people who are intimidated and feel a little bit insecure within themselves, seeing a person who isn't trying to blend in or fit in with other people, and that's really what it comes down to, those type of people are considered a threat to those who are insecure and jealous and just plain out miserable. When you don't try to fit in with other people, especially amongst women, because I see this a lot, and I've saw different memes where women will post, well, you can't sit at our table with us. You know, that kind of mean girl thing where it's like, I saw the Barbie and then I saw the one Barbie with the black hair and the one with the blonde hair, and all the blondes were sitting at the table, but the black Barbie was sitting by herself, not the black as in ethnicity. The girl with the black hair, she was by herself. The message that was being relayed is that you can't sit with us. And that Barbie, that little meme, it said, I don't need to sit at your table. I create my own tables. And while as women, when it comes to relationships, we don't have that kind of mentality. But when it comes to womanhood and how we interact with other women, we're not always going to try to go out of our way to try to get a seat at the table, so to speak. We're not always going to go out of our way to try to fit in with other people. It shouldn't take all of that when you're being authentic to who you are as a woman. When you're being authentic to who you are as a woman, your tribe will find you, and the people who are for you, they will be there around you. And when you think that way, the people who are used to doing the most in order to get acceptance from other people, they're not going to like you. You see, women, and this makes you the most powerful woman walking the earth. When you are able to walk alone until the right people come along, the cliques and the girl groups and the ones who start all the drama and the issues, they're not going to like you when you are a loner. When you're a woman and you're a loner and you're not sad, you're not depressed, you're not upset, you walk alone. Like, you're fine with that. You enjoy your own company. You're fine at work, just enjoying your lunch, putting your earbuds in, enjoying your music or your TV show while you're eating your lunch by yourself, being at peace. People who feel like they have to fit in, they got to be around somebody. I have to be, you got to talk to me. People who are like that do not like women who can just be to themselves and be perfectly fine. And it's not to say that women who are like that are mean, are snooty, or what other, word they want to have for them. Women who don't need to blend in are often disliked. And if you're that kind of woman, you have to get used to that, and don't try to change your character of who you are in order to blend in with other people. What I see a lot of times, women who are so eager to blend in with these groups, and a little sidebar, if you're over the age of 30, you shouldn't be trying to fit into a group of women. You should naturally let things flow the way they need to. If you still have that like sorority girl mindset where it's like, I really want to be with the cool girls, then you have deeper issues that you need to deal with. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have friends, with wanting to be in groups, with wanting to be around other like-minded women. That's what I'm doing here. And I would like to believe that many of us have the same mindset, i.e. the reason why you're here. But I say that to say, while there's nothing wrong with wanting to be amongst other women, don't come outside of your character in order to fit in and blend in. And as I was about to say, women who often do that, they will level themselves down in order to blend in with other women that are a little bit classless, tacky, and doing things and saying things that they ought not to say. Sacrificing your image as a woman is not worth being in a girl group or a clique. It's not worth, saying I have a seat at the table if I have to compromise my morals, my standards, and how I operate as a woman. If I can't talk about my goals and accomplishments out of fear that these women are going to feel intimidated or feel jealous of what I'm saying, then that's not the group for me. But you have many women who are so eager to fit in that they dumb themselves down in order to just say they're in the group. And that's one thing that feminine women with class and grace never do. We don't go outside of ourselves in order to try to blend in with women who are, I'll say it, basic in nature. And when their only conversation is to gossip, to cause problems, to have drama, to feel threatened by women who are leveling up and doing better for themselves, they're basic in nature. And you should not want to be in the company of those kind of women, which takes me back to being comfortable being alone and how you become a threat when you are comfortable being alone. When people realize that Dag, I haven't really talked to her all week long. We've been coming to work all week. I haven't said anything and she seems unfazed. You ever notice they'll start asking you little dumb questions or trying to get into your personal life in some way, ask you about people they have no idea about, ask you how your man is doing when they don't know your man, ask to see pictures of your man? Why do you need to see pictures of my husband? Why do you need to see pictures of my children? So you can have something to talk about? So you can fill me out to try to figure out what kind of person I am? You don't need to know. See, it's that little thing right there is the reason why I don't talk like that. You see, people who are so eager, and I'm not saying the well-intentioned people who just want to get to know you, you know the type of women that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the women who try to bait you into these conversations to get you caught up in drama. I'll give you an example. I was working at one job and this lady, it was a new person that started, and they asked me, how did I feel about this person? They didn't say too much about her. They kept it very general. They said about where she was from and all of that. What do you think about so-and-so? I heard she was saying these kind of things about people who work in the department that I work in. So she was alluding to the fact that she might have been talking about me, and she was trying to get me to say something shady about this girl. And I suspect she wanted me to say that so she can run back to her and say what I said to stir up some drama. And because I have that level of heightened discernment and wisdom, and I knew where she was going with her baited questions, yes, women who are jealous and envious and negative in nature and just miserable, they will try to bait you into talking about things that will get you caught up in drama. So when she asked me about her, I just told her, well, I know she works in this department. I really don't know her that well. She seems okay, and I left it at that. And the look of disappointment on her face because I didn't say much, because I was quiet. She thought I was so gullible and naive that I was just going to have mouth diarrhea and start saying a whole bunch of stuff about this girl, and I did not. That disappointed her. And do you know the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the foreseeable future while I worked there, this girl was always giving me the side eye, looking me up and down, rolling her eyes at me, all because I didn't allow her to bait me into getting caught up in gossip and drama. When you are a leveled up, confident woman, when you have wisdom and discernment, you recognize a snake when you hear one. You know what it is to be baited by a woman who is miserable and normally insecure and a little bit jealous. They like to use those little trick questions to get you caught up in drama. And I was not taking the bait. See, these are the kind of things you have to look out for when you don't need validation and you're more quiet and you're confident. People who are weird, and let's just call it what it is, it's deeper than just being jealous, miserable, and insecure. Sometimes they're just outright weird people. They're so miserable that they feel like they have to cause some kind of problems. They ask you questions about things that you don't really care about, and they know you don't care about it. And because of that, they try to trick you and bait you into different things. Don't let people do that. When you're more reserved, people try to fill you out. And when they can't figure you out, they start making assumptions about your character. They say you're quiet, so you must be bougie or conceited. Oh, you're not always in somebody's face, so you must, be depressed. Like, it's from one extreme to the next. Either they think there's something wrong with you, or they think you think you're too good for them or you're better than them, when in actuality, you are just good within yourself. You're at peace within yourself. Women who don't need a lot of validation, and that brings me to my outside point. You don't care to communicate with people who you know are drama-filled snakes. You'd rather be quiet for the rest of your life before you talk to somebody that's going to trick you and get you caught up in drama. And then with men, I have to say this, when you are a woman who doesn't need a lot of validation from men, not that you don't like the compliments, not that you don't like, being told that you're beautiful and that you're doing well and all those things, when you don't need it. And this is a little bit for married women, because when you're a married woman and you're happily married, you definitely really don't care if you get compliments from other men. And you definitely don't care if you are perceived as being, for lack of a better word, a witch, all because you're not giving in to what they're putting out in front of you. I get that often where men, they'll compliment me and I receive the compliment, but they might go a little bit further and they're trying to get to know me in a way that's inappropriate for me as a married woman. For me, as long as I have the validation of my husband, I truly don't care what another man thinks of me. I don't care if he sees me as a BI, all because I turned him down or I don't want to be bothered with him. And you have to get used to that too. And while you can let men down gently, some men, you absolutely have to draw a stern line in the sand with them because they're a little bit out there. And that's another thing. Men, they're going to think, okay, if you don't like them, there's something wrong with you. Because why would you not like them? Why would you not feel like, taken aback by the compliments they give you? Once again, when a woman knows she's beautiful, when she knows that she is that girl, a man that she's not interested in telling her that does nothing for her. But sometimes these dust bucket men, they don't understand that, and they try to paint you out to be something that you're not, all because you're not giving them the time and attention that they're seeking from you. Once again, when you're self-validated and you don't need all of that from them, you become a threat. This goes with men and women. When you don't need to be at their table and you don't need to be at their group, when they're having a party and you have your own party by yourself or you have your little girl group, they're bothered by that because their little negativity and their pettiness oftentimes didn't faze you, and that makes you a threat. I'm telling you, being a woman that is confident, self-assured, and self-validated, it is a reward, but it also comes with consequences, as in you're going to have to deal with haters who are upset by the fact that you don't need them. A lot of women who are more introverted especially, you don't need somebody constantly propping you up for you to feel good about yourself. And I'm not saying that we all don't need people around us to tell us, you're doing a great job. Who doesn't want to hear that? But even if you don't tell me that, I know that I'm doing well. And let me speak to the mothers for a moment. Because many of us, I know there's been many a time where I doubted myself as a mother. Sometimes my children will say or do things and I still look at myself like, am I doing well? Like, what's happening here? Why is my son acting like this? That kind of thing. And the one thing you don't take as a woman, and that makes you powerful, especially if you're a mother, when you don't let the scrutiny and judgment from other people to make you feel bad as a mother. You see, you got some people, and I'm going to say it. I know it might sound a little bit, brash or a little bit rough, and I'm going to say it. If you have never birthed a child, if you've never felt human shoulders come out of your womb, you cannot tell me what to do with my child. I've had some people who are not mothers throw their little opinions about different things because I have a son who's on the autism spectrum. And I can't tell you, earlier on, I heard so many things, so many people suggesting what I should be doing, what I could be doing, this and that. When a person has not walked in your shoes in a specific situation, they have no right to tell you how to be, especially when it comes to motherhood. There was a lot of ignorance that I had to dismiss and disregard in order to keep my focus on doing the best that I know how to do for my child. Was that challenging? Of course, because when it comes to your children, that's a different emotion. That's a different nerve that's being tapped. I can't even explain it. I don't even have a word for it. It's just when somebody challenges you in that way, you're going to feel that. But even in that, you have to be so confident and self-assured to know that you know what's best for your children, and you have to stand, as they say, 10 toes down on that one. Don't let somebody come along with their worldly understanding but not lived understanding of what your situation is. There's one thing to read things out of a book, and there's another thing to actually have lived a certain experience. If a person has never raised a child with special needs, unless you are one of the, IEP coordinators, one of the teachers, there's really nothing you can tell me or I believe anybody else about raising a special needs child. And forgive me if I got off on a little bit of a tangent about that one. That is near and dear to my heart because I have a 19-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum, and he was diagnosed when he was 4 years old. I'll probably do a video all about my experience raising a child with autism. I'll probably do a whole video on that one. But to get back to my original point of this entire video, when you are a woman who is self-validated and self-assured, that makes you a powerful woman and oftentimes a threat to those who seek to intimidate you, to make you feel insecure, all because they are insecure. When you don't need to be in the clique to fit in, if you're not trying so hard to be around those people, they will look at you like you're a threat, and it's a blessing because you don't need all of that extra. You just know who you are. But it's also, as I say, a little bit of a curse because they want you to want them. And when they're snakes, you don't need them. You don't need their validation, whether it be at work, whether it be at school, whether it be at your personal life. What does it benefit me to be complimented and encouraged and all these different things from somebody who doesn't really mean it, and they're doing and saying things just to bait you into doing and being the way that they are? It just doesn't make sense to me. So self-validated women are very powerful, and use that power to your advantage. Next video coming soon. But if you watch this video until the very end, put the high heel emoji in the comments section. I absolutely love to see it. Take care.